Welcome to Real Estate Coaching Radio, starring award-winning real estate coaches and #1 international best-selling authors, Tim and Julie Harris. This is the #1 daily radio show for realtors looking for a no BS, authentic, real-time coaching experience. What's really working in today's market, how to generate more leads, make more money, and have more time for what you love in your life. And now your hosts, Tim and Julie Harris.
Welcome back. Another day, another podcast, and you're going to love today's topic. I say that every day. You know, it's kind of funny. I hope they love the podcast as much as we love creating the podcast for them.
Me too. It's kind of an affirmation for us, isn't it? It's going to be a great podcast.
It is. Well, but the reality of it is you and I spend a lot of time creating these topics because we obviously want to give them the most drilled down information. Mm-hmm. We avoid our bloviation and opinionating, and we just like to use facts because we know a lot of people use our notes from these podcasts for their own education, and then they go on to educate maybe agents in their team or their brokerage. And we always write these podcasts so that you guys can use the notes for your social media. So if you are looking for our notes from today's podcast, you will not find them on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or all the other places our podcast is. You'll only find them in our newsletter, and you have to subscribe. The good news for you is it's free. Just go to harrisrealestatedaily.com and subscribe to the newsletter, and you'll get the day's notes. You definitely want today's notes because it is perfect content for you to use on social. The topic of today is don't believe the hype, debunking major housing market myths. Now, Julie and I were, frankly, doing a little bit of word judo with whether or not we should call these myths or lies, and we decided to use the word lie. So these are myths that unfortunately have been spun to such an extent that I'm sort of tired of calling them myths. Yeah. At this point, people should know that they're just straight up lies, but we're going to be getting to point number 1 in a second.
So the housing market is filled with misconceptions, lies, myths, whatever we like to call them, that can cause unnecessary fear and confusion. Whether that's the idea of a looming housing crash, the belief that corporations are buying up all the homes, or misconceptions about credit requirements, these myths all can prevent potential buyers from making informed decisions. So we're going to debunk some of those misconceptions, some of those lies, some of those falsehoods for you so that you can speak intelligently. You know, Tim, I am so amazed. You and I hear conversations from otherwise educated, good, smart, intelligent people, but housing's just not their wheelhouse. And they read a headline and then they repeat it and then the next person repeats it and now it's a lie.
Well, it's even worse than that. The headline was written by somebody who wasn't in the housing industry.
Yes.
And they probably read the headline that motivated them to write their article from somebody else who wasn't in the housing industry. And then all the while, here's what's really pernicious, I think, which drives me crazy, is all of this stuff is every stupid article about housing that's frankly not written within the housing industry is politicized.
It is.
It is bonkers. I do not even understand what the hell some of these people want to have happen. Oh, I suspect I think I know. And like, if you were to ask some of these people that are writing some of these horrible headlines that are absolute lies about housing, and you ask them, okay, well, why are you bending the truth that way? What is your ultimate outcome? And let's say you give them a beer or two. They probably tell you they have some sort of socialistic view on housing, on how real estate should be somehow available to everyone. I don't even understand it. I've tried to understand why somebody would write a headline that was so obviously a lie, and yet I've never been able to figure out in the 20 plus years you and I have been in the industry. But I will say this.
What's that?
Never before have I ever personally experienced so much, again, I'll use the word pernicious information, absolute deviant information about real estate than there is happening now.
Yes, I would agree with that. And one of the filters that I use, falsehood versus truth, is generally the negative people are not backed by facts. They'll just post a headline backed by nothing. It's just a statement. It's a speculation. It's a dramatic headline, and there's no there. And yet, and that's why we work so hard to debunk some of those myths and lies, is because we do use facts, we do use stats, we do use proof. That way all of our listeners are armed with the facts when you get into those types of conversations.
The only logical explanation I can come up with why some of this information is being spun is because there must be enough people out there that are feeling like they're being left out of the American dream for whatever reason. They're living in an expensive area. The first-time home buyer home would be $750 million, whatever. There's a lot of people out there that are feeling interest rates have gone up and they're not, they're feeling, I think, left out. And those people are looking for a group to belong to, and so they might as well belong to the group that basically is going to maybe be spinning some of these negative, these lies about real estate. I have to think that's the reason why.
Yes, but ultimately that's also exacerbated by the fact that perhaps nobody is educating them, motivating them, and getting them into action and leading them to the facts and the truth. And we're going to talk about that as we get going here.
So let's go into it, Julie. Lie number one, I'll read the titles, you can read the content. First-time buyers are priced out of the market. How often have you heard politicians saying that?
And here's what they claim. Rising home prices and mortgage rates have made it impossible for first-time buyers to purchase homes. But in reality, despite rising prices, first-time buyers comprise a substantial part of the housing market. In 2023, 32%, more than 30% of home purchases were made by those same first-time buyers. Government-backed programs like FHA loans require only a 3.5% down payment. Remember, they're claiming that you can't have enough money to put down. You don't have to put 20% down. FHA is 3.5%. State-level down payment assistance programs make homeownership more accessible. The average mortgage rate is around 6% currently and scheduled to go down, which, while higher than pandemic lows, is still far below the double-digit rates seen in the 80s.
I like how Julie said scheduled to go down. Julie, can I see that schedule? So I know.
Predicted. Well, predicted. I listen to Housing Wire. I think it's coming.
Now, so here's the thing. Special programs for teachers, police officers, firefighters, emergency responders are available for 50% discounts off the list price in terms of financing, right? This is called the Good Neighbor Next Door program. You guys can find out more about these programs on the website that we have listed in our notes. We have a lot of ground to cover, and this is a long URL. So opposed to us giving it to you, just make sure you're subscribed to our newsletter, harrisrealestatedaily.com. And the moral of the story is, and we've talked about this in the podcast a lot, our premier coaching clients know about it. They know about the links in the different programs. There's something like 20 different programs that are available for the first-time buyers. In some cases, making it available to them to, Julie said, 3.5% down. Some programs are basically 0% down. But what really was interesting when we were researching this are the number of grant programs that are out there that will give you your down payment.
That's right. So if you are a buyer or you have buyers in your pipeline who believe that you have to have stellar credit, a 20% down payment, and they can't buy unless rates are less than 6%, well, guess what? Maybe they're perpetuating that lie. And part of that is because you're maybe not educating them on all of these special programs. This is a talking point, right? Did you know that you can purchase a house for as low as 3.5%?
Right. Julie, you're jumping on point number 7.
Okay,
all right,
sorry.
Lie number 2, corporations like BlackRock are buying all the homes and turning America into a nation of renters. Who have you guys heard say that? I've heard a lot of politicians saying that.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of politicians I frankly thought were smart saying that on both sides of the aisle. Republicans and Democrats are saying that. I heard Robert F. Kennedy say that.
Me too.
And I got to thinking, that makes no sense to me. So I did a little bit of homework, and here's what we discovered.
We went facting. So here's the claim. Large corporations are buying up all of the available homes, leaving regular buyers out in the cold and turning the U.S. into a nation of renters.
And that's what's causing prices to go up because the big evil corporations are buying up all the homes, leaving nothing available for normal people to buy, turning us all into renters. And of course, because they have some sort of big mass monopoly on all the real estate, they're jacking rents up, and they're basically screwing the middle class. Y'all heard that? I certainly have. Here's the reality.
Here's the reality. While institutional investors are involved in the housing market, they represent a small percentage of the overall market. As of 2022, institutional investors own only 2 to 3% of the total single-family homes in the U.S. Most homes, 97%, are still owned by individuals and small investors. BlackRock, for instance, is more focused on multifamily housing and commercial real estate, more focused on that than buying single-family homes. So the conclusion, the fear that corporations like BlackRock are turning the U.S. into a nation of renters is really exaggerated. Individual home ownership remains dominant, 97% dominant, with the U.S. home ownership rate of about 65%.
So if you hear a politician, let's pick on politicians, that's safe ground, I think,
Sure.
say that BlackRock and other corporations are buying up homes and making it so that we're going to be a nation of renters, and you now know the truth, when you hear somebody saying that, you have to assume they know the actual facts, and they're saying it anyway. You have to assume that, because I don't know how long it took me to find the facts. Not that long.
No.
And so they would have done the same research, came up with the same damn thing, but they're telling you or trying to get you to believe that some evil corporation is gobbling up all the real estate because they want you to feel a certain way. Don't allow them to manipulate you. Own your own mindset. Lie number 3, it's better to rent than to own. Lie number 3 is really pernicious, and make sure you do not let anyone you know, love, and care about fall victim to this claim.
Here's the claim. Renting is more flexible and cost-effective than owning a home, making it the better financial choice. Oh, gosh, I can barely even read that sentence. Okay, the reality. While renting does provide flexibility, home ownership remains one of the most reliable ways to build wealth. The Federal Reserve reports that the median net worth of homeowners is $255,000 compared to $6,300 for renters. Homeowners build equity over time while renters pay for the housing without gaining any financial return. Fixed-rate mortgages provide stability, protecting homeowners from rising housing costs, while renters often face annual rent increases. So the conclusion, though renting may offer short-term flexibility, home ownership is generally a better financial decision for long-term wealth building.
Okay, most first generation, like almost all first generation millionaires in the United States, became first generation millionaires through real estate. Almost always their own homes. There's fact number 2. Fact number 3, you will find people that are very good at explaining that renting is better than owning, and they'll produce you a spreadsheet. I've seen these too,
Yep.
which shows here's your down payment you're planning on putting in this house. It's a $500,000 house. You're thinking about putting $100,000 down over the next 30 years. Here's how much you're going to pay in the mortgage. And if you'd put that same, $100,000 in the S&P 500, here's how much you're actually going to pay, or here's how much you would have gained in equity from the compounding interest on the mortgage or on the investment. Okay? When you look at it that way, yeah, owning a home sucks. But what they're not taking into consideration is obviously inflation, but also you still have to pay to live somewhere.
Yes.
So all the money that you're earning from the S&P 500, from the compounding interest on that $100,000 that eventually over 30 years does become a very substantial number, you have to remove from that. You have to adjust for inflation, and then you have to remove from that all the money you put into paying rent over all those decades. And you'll discover very quickly that if you're looking at just from an analytical financial perspective, owning a home is the smartest financial decision. It also gives you a lot of inherent benefits, emotional, and I have to say one of the best advantages to owning real estate is the fact that it's illiquid, which a lot of people will say is a disadvantage. Illiquid. If you have cash sitting in front of you that's liquid, you can spend the money. If it's equity in real estate, it's illiquid. It's a pain in the ass to get at. You have to refinance or get a HELOC. You want illiquid money because, let's be honest, dear listener, you're not that great at saving money. So when you own a home or homes or real estate, it's going to increase in value, and it's going to increase in value at the same, if not more than the inflation rate. So the reason that, have you noticed that the inflation rate after the last 3 or 5 years, it's caused most homeowners to have 50% equity in their homes? Do you believe the lowering interest rate is going to cause the more essentially increases in home values through inflation? Of course it will. Owning a home is going to be one of the most locked in, guaranteed ways, perhaps more than ever, because of demographics, to essentially build yourselves long-term financial security.
And I would even argue against the flexibility part, that renting is more flexible, because think about it from a renter's perspective. To me, that's very insecure. That owner could decide to sell at any point. Even if you are in the middle of your lease, they could give you notice in most cases for leases, right? You're almost guaranteed to have to pay more for the same house that you're renting this year to stay in that house. And you're for sure going to spend more if you're going to have to move again, moving expenses, getting it all started up again. I think it's actually less stable from maybe a family standpoint.
But who's trying to perpetuate that message? Who wants you to believe that renting's better than owning? I'll tell you who. People that are trying to sell you something so they can redirect that $50,000 or the $100,000 you're putting towards your down payment towards their pockets to try to sell you something. Stock, for example, an LP investment in a multifamily, for example. They want you to direct what should have been a very stable, predictable investment into owning your own home or into owning multiple homes into something that's going to benefit them. Guys, come on. You all know this. This is obvious. Lie number 4, Julie. There are no homes for sale due to lack of inventory.
Gosh, that's such a 2 to 3 year old headline, isn't it? They claim a severe shortage of homes for sale leaves buyers without options. The reality, while inventory has been tight in some areas, it's far from true that there are no homes for sale. As of 2024, many markets have about almost a 6-month supply of housing for sale, considered a balanced market when you get to 6 months of supply. And new home construction is increasing, helping to alleviate inventory shortages. I've read several times this week that we were on track to do 700,000 homes, new construction, and now they're ramping up. They're thinking it's going to be closer to 1 million.
What, right now starts?
Right, yeah.
Oh, that's
absolutely.
awesome.
Okay. Conclusion, although some regions do remain competitive, the idea of a complete lack of inventory is exaggerated as housing supply continues to balance out with demand. And I can prove that just from coaching client calls, because they've seen average days on the market go from 22 seconds to 22 days to maybe 2.5 months, right? That's because there's more homes to choose from.
Okay, before we get to lie number 5, I want to ask you a question, dear listener. Why the heck aren't you in Premier Coaching? Why? What's holding you back? I mean, you know Premier Coaching is going to be exactly what you want to have to build momentum into 2025. It includes a daily semi-private coaching call. You know it's essentially a turnkey and complete real estate business system. Did you also know that you can join Premier Coaching right now for free? You can have immediate access to all of the first level, including a daily semi-private coaching call with a Harris certified coach if you join Premier Coaching right now. Simply go to premiercoaching.com or just text the word Premier. Julie, how do they spell Premier?
Premier.
That's right. Or just, like I said, go to premiercoaching.com. The link to join Premier Coaching is also in the show description, whether you're on YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher, it doesn't matter where. Join Premier Coaching right now. Take the momentum, the excitement, and the motivation. Take it to the next level by becoming a Premier Coaching client. That is going to be the next natural step for all of you to do immediately. You can do it right now while you're listening to this podcast. Do not waste time telling yourself you're going to get, join Premier Coaching the start of the year. You're going to hit hard reset the start of the year. The problem is if you take that approach, you're going to be trying to restart your business at the same time. Literally hundreds of thousands of other agents are, and you're going to find yourself with a lot of fierce competitors who are also fighting for the same business that you are. Build momentum into the new year. Have listings going to the new year. Get your skill set on for the new year. Become a Premier Coaching client member. Text the word Premier to 47372 or just go to premiercoaching.com. Julie, lie number 5.
Lie number 5 is that you need to have a perfect credit score to buy a home. The claim, only buyers with near perfect credit scores can qualify for a mortgage. But the reality, buying a new home does not need a perfect credit score. Programs like FHA loans allow buyers with credit scores as low as 580 to qualify with a 3.5% down payment. VA and USDA loans also have more lenient credit score requirements, making homeownership more accessible to a wider range of buyers. So a perfect credit score for people who don't study credit is 850. So having a loan where it can be as low as 580 is pretty significant, and there's a lot of loans anywhere in between. So the conclusion is that buyers with less than perfect credit can still qualify for home loans, and programs like FHA, VA, or USDA that are specifically designed to help those types of buyers enter the housing market. And also, for a regular conventional, the more money you put down, your credit is not as important as if you're not. So you got to take advantage of that.
One of the things we're going to really drill down on with you when you become an ethical real estate professional designee, and when you're learning to be essentially an exclusive buyer's agent, is we're going to teach you the entire buyer pre-qualification process. And the whole buyer process, first step is generate the buyer lead. The second one's going to be pre-qualifying. And so pre-qualifying is where the rubber's going to meet the road, because that's where you're going to quickly determine, using our scripts and our process, whether that's a real buyer or that's just a buyer wannabe. What most of you have been working with are buyer wannabes, people that either don't have the motivation or the financial ability to actually purchase a home. So our complete turnkey system, which is ethical real estate professional exclusive buyer agent, that is going to be a literal, solution to an enormous problem some of you are going to be experiencing in the very near future if you're not already, which is getting buyers to want to work exclusively with you and making them sign exclusive contracts, having them sign exclusive contracts with enthusiasm, because right now you're just sending over the exclusive because you have to. It's a guideline now, but you're not actually getting them to sign it because you're not giving them the reason to want to sign it. Ethical real estate professional, as an ethical real estate professional, you're going to send them over the paperwork to sign along with the presentation explaining why they want to work exclusively with you. And then you're going to all of a sudden discover that buyers are going to want to sign exclusive buyer agency contracts because of the benefits of working with you. It's no longer going to be something you're going to have to feel like you have to convince them to sign. They're going to want to sign on with you because all the benefits they have with you as an ethical real estate professional designee. So make sure you get on the wait list to be part of this program. It's going to be going live soon. In order to get on this list, you have to text the word buyer, B-U-Y-E-R, to 47372. Text the word buyer, B-U-Y-E-R, to 47372. And when the program is ready to launch, we're going to be doing a webinar to introduce you guys all to the ethical real estate professional designation movement, the program. And when you're on the webinar, if you choose to participate, you'll be given the opportunity to. So we have over 500 people on the wait list. Get on this list right away. We are going to honor the commitment all of you have made to us by being loyal podcast listeners. Thousands of you have listened every day, and we're going to give you first bite at that apple. So text the word buyer, B-U-Y-E-R, to 47372, and you will get an exclusive invitation sometime in the very near future. Julie, lie number 6, and this is one we are actually hearing a lot less, but still out there, very pernicious. Lie number 6, home prices are going to fall, and a housing crash is imminent.
I know the housing crash must still be coming, right? But no, the claim, the housing market will crash and home prices will drop significantly. Okay, the reality, given the market's current stability, a housing crash similar to 2008 is highly unlikely.
It's impossible.
Extremely unlikely. I would say impossible.
It's
yes.
impossible.
U.S. homeowners collectively, so here's why. We're not just saying that. U.S. homeowners collectively hold $17 trillion in home equity, and 45% of mortgaged homes are considered equity rich. That means the owner has at least 50% equity in the house.
Actually, I should have updated that, Julie. It's not 17, it's $32 trillion in equity.
Okay, well,
I was wrong. So the value of the equity in homes in the United States was $32 trillion. I didn't update your notes. Sorry.
Well, and we'll explain in a second why this is so important. Low default rates and the prevalence of fixed rate mortgages, which is about 96% of U.S. mortgages, provide additional stability, protecting homeowners from rising interest rates. Now, not all of our listeners have any idea why all of this matters. When there were foreclosures and there were short sales, a short sale, and this
I can break it down.
Yeah.
Okay, so of all the homes in the United States, 43% are owned without a mortgage. No mortgage, 43%. Of all the ones with a mortgage, on average, they have basically 50% equity in their homes. So 43% have 100% equity. The other, roughly, 46,
About
47, half have at least 50% equity. Are you guys getting the point
Okay,
here?
so point number 1, you can't foreclose on a house that doesn't have a loan.
Right.
Okay?
No debt.
No debt. There's
Right.
nothing to be a short sale or foreclosure.
And the other, massive group, oh, by the way, the ones with 50% equity that have a loan have their interest rate is like on average 3.75% or less, something like that. So the moral of the story is that what happened in the housing crash was literally the exact opposite.
It could not be any more opposite.
Julie and I were coaching then. We were, introducing the world to short sales. We were the largest short sale training programs back then. And what we did, the facts were, the people that were losing their homes to foreclosure into short sale had no equity. They had negative equity. They owed $500 on the house, but it was worth $300.
And they also didn't have low interest rate loans that they were going to lose if they lost the house.
And the banks were letting them walk away from the mortgage without trying to go after them for the negative equity and taxes. I'm getting into the weeds with what I just said, but the moral of the story is nothing like that is happening now. People have a massive amount of equity in their homes, and that massive amount of equity is going to be what puts an ultimate foundation underneath the housing market. Why would someone short sell their home, or why would someone lose their home to foreclosure?
Well, 50% of people couldn't short sell their home if they wanted to because they got 50% equity in it.
Well, no. Well, that's right. That's true. But also, if someone falls, okay, Tim, what are you talking about? Somebody could all of a sudden lose their job and have a bunch of financial problems. Okay, true. But guess what? They have 50% equity on their house. They can put their house for sale. And in a housing market like this, it's going to sell pretty damn fast, isn't it? No foreclosure fear. All these same people that are predicting the sky is going to fall in real estate. We're also saying after the COVID era, what were they called? The mortgage forbearances. After the forbearance, there's going to be a huge wave of foreclosures because of the forbearances.
Nope.
Except during COVID, what happened to real estate went through the roof. You guys get it? No housing crash on the horizon. If anybody is telling you there's going to be a housing crash, you have to assume they know the facts. I just gave it to you, and they're choosing to lie to you. You have to assume that. Do not give people hall passes on passing along bad information anymore. Do not allow them in your lives. Line number 7.
You should always wait for interest rates to drop before buying. It's better to wait for interest rates to drop before deciding to purchase. Now, that's the claim. The reality is this. While waiting for rates to drop might seem like a good idea, home prices can rise in the meantime. Even if rates fall, the overall cost of buying may increase due to home appreciation. Current interest rates are around 6%, much lower than the historical highs of 15% and higher in the 80s. So the conclusion is if you find a home you can afford now, it is worth buying because you can always refinance, you can use an adjustable rate mortgage, and meanwhile, the price of the home's going to go up if you wait.
That's it right there. Barbara Corcoran said this yesterday. I was watching her being interviewed. She's talking about this very thing. So first of all, we know interest rates are going down. So let's just set that aside. Even if you didn't know interest rates were going to go down, but you know the value of a home was going to go up, you're waiting for interest rates to fall all the while the house that you would have otherwise bought is going to go up more so. So let's say you get a mortgage at 6% and you want to wait for mortgage, and you're thinking to yourself, well, I should have waited to 5.5%. Let's just say mortgage rates go down to 5.5%. I think they're going to go lower than that, but let's just say they go to 5.5%. That house has now gone up in price to the point where you would have been better off payment-wise getting the mortgage at 6% because now the house has increased in value through inflation to the point where the lower interest rate doesn't offset the expense of the mortgage because the house is more expensive.
And your down payment went up.
And your down payment. So waiting out interest rates doesn't make sense. Oh, and by the way, you can always refinance. So the question you have to ask yourself, are you like, what percent of confidence do you have that home prices are going to continue to increase? Is it 100% or 110%, right? So let's assume it's somewhere in between those two numbers. So you know everything. All homes are going to be more expensive next year, year after, year after, year after. Lock in a house now, and then you can play the interest rate. You refinance when the mortgage rates go down. That's fine, but do not wait to buy a home. And look, there's 180-day supply in many major markets of homes for sale. If you're not calling all of your real estate clients, your leads, if you're not letting everyone know what's actually happening in housing and you're leaving their real estate education up to these, oh man, I almost said a bad word, up to all these well-intending, lovely folks in the media who are trying to fill their minds full of this garbage, you are doing yourself a disservice because all your potential transactions are being fed full of garbage and their heads are full of garbage about real estate. And what's more is you are actually being a little unethical yourself.
It's malpractice.
It's malpractice because you're not telling them the truth, even though you know the truth. Julie and I giving you the facts. We're giving you the information as to where we got these facts. Get our notes by going to harrisrealestatedaily.com. Julie, point number 8, and I did some homework on this one too. It's better to invest in stocks and real estate. We already gave an example of why this wasn't true, but you can drill down on that as well.
That's right. So the claim is that investing in the stock market is a better way to build wealth than real estate. But the reality is, while stocks can provide high returns, real estate offers long-term stability, tax advantages, and appreciation. Homeowners can also leverage their investment by borrowing money to buy a home with a relatively low down payment, creating the opportunity to own a large asset while investing less upfront. Real estate also provides tangible benefits, of course, including stable housing costs, fixed rate mortgages, and appreciation that offers a reliable way to build wealth.
Now, on paper, I mentioned this earlier, you are going to get a better return on investment or a almost better return on investment if you invest in the stock market. So the answer, but you still are going to have long term, but you're still going to have a housing expense. So the answer isn't either or. Buy a house, get all the benefits, even if over 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, you're not going to stay in the same house that long. You're going to move every 5 to 7 years. But even if you were to stay in the house over that time, for sure, the house is going to, 3x, 4x, 5x in value, but the money you put in the down payment would have, if you put it in the S&P 500, will probably do better. But you're not taking into consideration the fact that you're always going to have a housing expense.
Yeah, see, that argument would work if you could live for free.
Right.
Which you can't.
If you could live, if it was a really nice bridge that you were choosing to live under, had heating and cooling.
You're probably not investing in that case.
Where you had that's true. Where you had no housing expense and you had nothing to offset the argument. But have you ever noticed, and I see this happening in social all the time, and it really drives me crazy because I know there's millennials out there. They're doing their best to try to buy their first house, and they're tripping over some of these really stupid posts and social media things where they're telling them, oh, you better to rent than to buy, and all these self-proclaimed gurus who are making these statements and they're saying, oh, I like the flexibility. Oh, I can invest the money I would have put into my house into, my business or into more vacationing. In other words, they're going to take the money and basically spend more time at Vail or on rented private jets. That's a better way to put your money than buying a house? Really?
No. Okay. So today we have given you 8, let's call them what they are, myths, yes, but more accurately, lies, misconceptions, misperceptions. And we have given you the reality that offsets that. And we have given you stats and facts in every single case. So now you can speak intelligently, educate you, motivate you, and get you into action. That is our job. Do you feel educated? I hope that you do. You can get the notes. Tim showed you how. Do you feel motivated? You should. Now it's up to you to get into action. I have to say, one of the fears that I have for some of these listeners going into fourth quarter, going into next year, is knowing all of this from today's podcast, from yesterday's podcast, showing that the demand is going to continue to go up. Prices are going up, yes, but we're getting more supply. We're getting lower interest rates. The fear that I have is that there's going to be all of these new buyers coming in, and some of them have listings, right? And they're going to be sitting there with their voicemail full, their email, their text. They're going to have a lot of buyer action, and they're still going to be insecure about the buyer presentation. They're still going to be insecure and fearful. And what are they going to do? The worst case scenario is they're going to do nothing. And some of those buyers who would have been transacting with you are going to go somewhere else. They're going to go to the listing agent. They're going to go to the new construction builder, or they're going to work with another agent. Don't let that happen to you. You've got to take action now, not because we say so. It's because it's required.
Well, bottom line, what Julie's saying, your best, most loyal past clients, centers of influence, your mom, when you hit them with a exclusive buyer contract, where it says that they're now obligated to pay your commission, if you've not explained to them what benefits, do you even know why would a buyer want to obligate themselves to work with you? Be honest, listener. Why?
They don't have to.
They don't have to. If all you're doing is offering to somebody what everyone else offers, if you're not differentiating yourself in the marketplace amongst other agents that are also trying to get your mom to sign an exclusive buyer agency contract with them, you explain to me why she would choose you over them. Well, hopefully she would choose you over them, but your guys are hopefully getting my point. If you do not have a clearly defined reason, essentially a real profound reason why they're going to want to choose you over your competitors, you aren't going to win. You're not going to have those buyers. Those buyers are going to have listings to sell. You will have no momentum, and you will have despite the fact the housing market will be booming, you're going to be crashing. That was the motivation for us. We want to help you avoid this unnecessary pain and suffering. Please get on the list to be included in the Ethical Real Estate Professional designation. The program will be released as soon as it's ready. We're not going to rush it to market until we're very proud of what it's going to offer for all of you. You guys got to text the word buyer, B-U-Y-E-R, to 47372. Text the word buyer, B-U-Y-E-R, to 47372. Do that urgently, and when the program is available, and which should hopefully be soon, I'll send out a text. The text will then give you a link to join the webinar, register for the webinar, join the webinar, and then we're going to explain the entire program to you, and then you're going to take the next step. That way you will have a turnkey solution. When a buyer is trying to decide between you and another agent, you're going to say, I am an ethical real estate professional, exclusive buyer agent. These are the reasons why you're going to want to work with me. This is what I do that's different in the marketplace. These are my, the guarantees and the assurances that I make. I realize that I'm unique in the marketplace. I realize that my competitors aren't offering anything like this. And the buyer is going to want to sign with you. Remember, everybody's got to get these, exclusives signed. Everyone's going to be, trying to get these exclusives signed going to the new year. You're going to have an actual turnkey solution to do all the work for you. That's what ethical real estate professional designation is going to be. Doesn't it just make sense that you're going to want to have an ethical real estate professional designation? Of course it does. So guys, text the word buyer to 47372. Text the word buyer to 47372. Do that urgently. Get on the list. Have a fantastic day. We'll talk with you on the show tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.